Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. Hillary and I have been busy, and this video is all about, well, first of all, simply what we've been doing, and second of all, about this kind of phase, I think, that we're heading into. And phases in life are one of those things where you don't really know you're going through a transition specifically until you're kind of halfway or all the way through it, and then you look back and say, geez, a lot has changed. Well, a lot has changed for us in the last, I would say, 2 years. First of all, what we've been up to, I got back from my trip to Rantoul about 10 days ago. I spent 7 days straight replacing the roof on this half of our house all the way over. I had a problem with defective roof shingles. The first roof went up in, let's see, it was 2008 or something like that. And by 2020, they were going, and I, of course, put off. And finally, with a lot of work, me on the roof nailing and cutting shingles and Hillary handing them up to me, we got it done. And boy, am I relieved. Here's a close-up in case you can't see it in the far away shot. That's the new roof. It's fussy work because this addition's got lots of small roofs and valleys and such. Here's the back side where the back door is. Yep. And we got all these areas where we tore out the flower beds seeded with grass and mulched. We've put in a lot of grass this summer. There's some that we seeded over there. This in here is where the brooder house used to be that we tore down a few months ago, and the grass is coming in pretty good here. And this is the area where the outdoor pig run, the brood pig run, used to be, that we took down the fence. We seeded that, and the grass is coming in pretty good here. I'm keeping the lay down area where I stack manure nice and clean and mowed, and I've got material piles for mulch and topsoil that I took out of the front of the house and stone over there, all neatly piled. And this side of the house, this is the north side here, is the final side that we need to clean up. All this stuff needs to come out of here, and you'll probably see that in the next video. And once we finish that, we've almost been around the whole place. There's one other pig pen that we need to clean up, but we're gonna wait till winter to do that. In relation to the house here, that pig pen is north of the house, the stone wall here. This stone used to be the foundation for the kitchen wing that I tore off, and I stacked it all here. But this was one of our pig pens, you know, the pig pastures. There's the shed from the pigs. We got to take that down. And then the pigs killed all these trees here. They girdled them down at the bottom, so we'll be cutting them out of here this winter, and maybe I'll run the excavator through and clean up some of this brush. Coming out here to the chicken pasture, you can see how much this has changed. There used to be brush and brambles and all kinds of stuff growing up in here, and now it's all cleared out. The grass has started to grow in here. We just have the one broiler box, whereas we had a whole bunch of junk over there. I got to find a place to get rid of some of these agricultural tires. They're hard to find places to get rid of. Car tire places won't take them. And then the field's empty, except we got this one gravity wagon. Everything's cleared off. I just clipped this field yesterday, nice and clean. The old Eggmobile and the turkey ark used to sit here. Now we got a nice clean fence line, easy to mow. And I gained some land to make hay off of. Fence is hot, you can hear it ticking. Hillary and I went to Missouri at the end of June for the Red Power Roundup show. And when we got back, kind of all of a sudden, we had all this energy to clean stuff up. And I think part of it was that it had rained so much in the spring. Everything was just grown up, you know, everything in the fields and along the fence lines. And I just laid right into it. And through the months of July and August, it's been nonstop, except for other essential farm chores that we've had. We're on the last butcher batch of broilers here, just this one box. Hillary and I butchered this morning for market, and one more butcher of broilers and we'll be done with them for the year. We can clean all this stuff up. The layers behind me will stay out on pasture probably until October. It all depends on the weather, when it gets too cold for them out here. And then we'll be bringing them in to join the pullets and doing stew hens. About half these need to go because they've aged out, and so we'll be selling quite a few stew hens this winter. Hillary calls these guys fatties. When they're about ready to go in the freezer, they're fatties. And the laying hen's production is slowly going down in terms of eggs, just a function of how much sunlight there is. Hello, pepperoni. Over here in the chicken's winter house, we have the pullets, and Hillary let them out into this yard just a few days ago, so they're cleaning up all the weeds. Hey guys, gals. Are you a rooster? You look like one. We started around 80 pullets this year as day-old chicks. You always get some roosters. I think Hillary's counted 4. There's one. 4 in this batch, and we call him Stu. Stu and his other brother Stu and his other brother Stu, and that's where they're going to go when we do stew hens in a few weeks or so. So the order of events is, while the older hens are still out on pasture, we collect up the culls from them, which is about half of the ones that are out there. And then after we've taken care of that, we bring them in and they join the pullets, and there's some adjustment merging flocks, but they're about the same size, so it's not that bad. Heading out toward the pastures, you can see how the cleanups continued. This used to be all grown up over here with goldenrod, and of course the old pig pen was over here. Remember, this is the field that I've seeded, and as part of the cleanup, I pulled all the equipment that I park out here away and cleaned up in here, and then pulled it all back in. And I'm going to keep all the crap from growing up around it so that everything's nice and tidy. And coming past the equipment here is the field that I seeded last spring. I clipped it off a couple days ago, and I've also clipped off yesterday this field here in the middle. This newly seeded field varies quite a bit by area. So where the pig pen was, there's lots of clover growing up. And as you go out, I'll show you the line. The line is right here. You can see it in the type of mowed grass there is. So clover here in where the pen outline is, coming through here. And then as you get into here, it turns more into grasses, and more weeds have sprouted up in here for some reason. Ragweed and goldenrod and burdock and all kinds of different different kinds of dock. You've probably heard me say over the years that our principal job is to grow grass, because the livestock, it all kind of pyramids from there, with the grass being at the bottom of the pyramid. This has been a horrible grass growing year. It was really wet in the spring, which was great for growing grass. It was great for getting this field started, but it was so wet that we couldn't harvest and make hay, and it got way over mature on us. And the problem with waiting too long to mow is the weeds start to take hold. That's why I keep everything down the way I do. Then it dried out, and it's been a very dry summer. I mowed these 2 fields that I talked about just 2 days ago and yesterday, because we were due for some rain, and we got a ½ inch or so last night. Before that, this field was starting to brown out, this new seeding, so it's been difficult to get new seeding started. And you remember when I seeded this, I said the first year this field will look terrible. All the weeds will come up and they'll be more dominant than the grasses. This is the 3rd time I've mowed it, and I can see what I planted in here, but there's also a lot of weeds. What'll happen is when late fall comes and I put about 4 tons of lime on this field, it's only a couple acres, it's 2 tons per acre spread rate, that'll unlock a lot of the nitrogen that's in the soil, and it'll look like a completely different field next spring, based on my experience of when we've seeded other fields. But for now, I just have to deal with the way it looks, with everything I don't want coming up in it right now. This is the other field that I clipped, what we call the middle field, and you can see the cattle. Maybe you can. They're way down there in the next field down. I had to wait longer than normal to clip this because I wanted some rain to be in the forecast before I did it. It's starting to remind me of fall. It sure is blustery today, something we commonly see in the fall, and the temperature's gradually cooling down as we head toward fall. Some of the trees are starting to turn too. The sumac there's got some red on it, and box elder there is starting to yellow up, and there's a maple or two down the way that have color. I think that's due to the dry weather as much as anything. We haven't had a frost yet. There's the cows. Howdy, cows. And Orden. How are you, bud? How's it going? Yeah. You miss Titus, huh? Or something like that. Hi, Patty. Where's your calf? Where is he? Hi, Coco. There he is. Hi, little one. This is Patty's calf, 2501, that we kept as a bull. And he is developing exactly how I would like. He has just an arrow straight back, and his frame is exactly what I'd like to see when he stands, when he's just standing up. Maybe I can show him doing that, but he's having a meal right now. Orden, has anybody told you yet that you have a poopy butt? That's embarrassing. Titus and his crew are here in the barn. Titus, a couple cows with their calves, a couple steers that happen to get caught in the process. They'll be in here for another 10 days, and I can tell by the way both bulls are behaving that they know the big day is coming when we turn Titus and his crew out and Titus and Orden meet in the pasture. Who will be dominant after they do their headbutting contest? It has always been in the past the one that's out on pasture, so that would be Orden this year. I think because the one out on pasture gets more exercise, gets in shape for the big match, but we'll find out. I'll be sure to show that. I made a video 2 years ago on my birthday 2 years ago. I turned 55 that year, and I said something different is coming, and I didn't know what it was. And a lot of people, I remember reading through the comments on that video, and a lot of people said, don't change anything. Yeah, but I felt something needed to change. Hillary and I went through this great creative process for years and years, building this farm up, and I loved that. I like creating things. Building something from scratch and having it succeed is something I'm always interested in. Maintaining is difficult for me. So when the farm got to a certain point, I started looking around for the next challenge, and that video was all about that. At the same time, looking back, talking about a change in phase of life, we had just built this addition on the barn that houses the cattle and gone through this barn and the lower barn and done a complete reorganization, got rid of a lot of stuff and turned this upper barn just into hay storage. And I have a few tractors up here, and then the lower barn is all equipment storage. That continued, mostly off camera, that sort of cleanup. It got us going on this streak that's gone for the last couple years. Next, we went into the garage, took loads and loads of stuff out of the top of the garage that had accumulated up there, toys from when the kids were little, stuff that we didn't need on the farm anymore, lots and lots of things up there. And it continued on into the little yard shed that I have that was behind the truck for a long time, where the truck sat, where we cleaned up all the stuff out of that. Again, loads and loads of old gardening stuff that we didn't use anymore, and just you know, you put stuff in places thinking you might use it again, and then 10 years passes and it's still sitting there. Well, it's probably time to get rid of it. Yeah, or you put something there that in the first place probably should have been tossed into the junk pile or into the garbage, but you just put it there anyway because it was easier to put it there. We continued that into the house and took a lot of stuff out of the house, and now we've gone around the outside and cleaned up just an amazing amount of stuff outside in 2 months. Remnants of the way that we used to farm that we don't anymore. You know, some of the old machinery I dragged out, the old Eggmobile, the old turkey ark, some of the old pasture boxes, gravity wagons, hay wagons. From making square bales, we quit making square bales 6 or 7 years ago now. So it's kind of like we're cleaning up to just what we need, and it feels good. I asked Hillary before I made this video, how do you feel about it? And she said, every time that something leaves, it's like I have a little bit less to worry about, and I feel exactly the same way. So looking back, the last 2 years have been the change in phase of life, from building this farm and having it be what it became to kind of realizing that gradual downsize and moving on to not just kind of existing at a smaller scale, but looking for the next creative challenge to keep us occupied. And I think that all of these things that we've done are akin to wiping the chalkboard off clean, or dragging out a clean sheet of paper and having a clean canvas to write the next projects, phase, whatever it is on. I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I'm excited for it. And I don't think it will be an extension of what we have now, although the farm will continue, because it needs to be something that's challenging. And challenging is new, usually. Something new. Anyway, that's what life's about. I hope you enjoyed this video. The next one will be that cleanup on the north side of the house, and that should be very cathartic to get all that crap out of there. I'll see you next time.